I'm Shiloh from TikTok Talk, and you're watching the EXO Show. Woo! Yo, this looks nice. TikTok on the clock, butter. Let me give your heart a break, and not how much you can take, your heart a break, oh yeah. What's good? So Tollywood Karens across the globe are having a meltdown because of the 4B movement. Now I know you're probably wondering, what is the 4B movement? Well, the 4B movement is about not being a whore. And what I mean by not being a whore is women are petitioning and protesting their vaginas. Yes, you heard it here first. Women are stopping the degeneracy of fucking anybody that they want. And they're stopping that to, I guess, stick it up to the men, because the men are all wrong in this country. Now, hey, men are not perfect at all, okay? But this is a good thing, honestly. Like, the fact that they're using something that's supposed to be a sacred art, right? You're not supposed to just fuck anybody. Like, that's not how culturally and tribally we grew up, right? But now that you got social media and you see a bunch of fucking beautiful people all the time, that just kind of is like an instinctual feat if you don't have the sexual discipline to withhold from that. But women are now exempting themselves from being scantily clad and fucking every man in the world, to the point where they're actually shaving their heads. Yes, they are turning into Amber Rose. And where's the best place to do this? TikTok. So the latest viral sensation, the 4B movement, which stands for no boyfriend, no marriage, no childbirth, and no dating. This originally started in South Korea and has now made its way formulaically to the US, the United States of America, or as I like to call it, every sitcom's dad's worst nightmare. This movement has been described as a feminist initiative where women reject romantic and reproductive ties, with men gaining traction in a wide wake of Trump's re-election. And the subsequent shut up and go make me a sandwich vibes, some women are finally feeling that societal norms are portraying in their favor. And honestly, the motto might as well be, why settle for a Chad when you can have peace and Netflix? The 4B movement first gained popularity in South Korea and now is making its way to the United States like a K-pop group, but with fewer boy bands and more feminine manifestos. Imagine a South Korean woman explaining the 4B movement to an American on TikTok. In Korea, we reject all romantic ties with men. And as the American will respond, oh my God, same. Ever since my Tinder date Venmo'd me for half of his mozzarella cheese sticks, I haven't been looking for long pieces of white sticky stuff ever since. But in all seriousness, this movement stems from the legitimate frustrations about issues like reproductive rights, gender inequality, and societal expectations. Women are declaring a stance of, why should I risk maternal death or a life with a guy who thinks Axe body spray is his personality? And as you know, social media has always had a way of taking a serious cause and turning it into, well, something slightly unhinged. Oh my God, my hat fell off. TikTok creators are sharing videos about ditching men, but with the spicy side of memes. One creator even captioned her video, I dumped him because he said Joe Rogan is a modern philosopher. Hashtag 4B. Not even joking.
Like, all of a sudden I'd be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right. And of course, everyone's not going to be thrilled. Men are flooding the comments with retorts like, your body, my choice, as we know somebody who has done that. Quoting white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Yes, because nothing says I'm a cat like stealing slogans from a guy whose hairline looks like it's trying to social distance from his face. The backlash against 4B has been swift, mostly from men who are losing their minds over the idea that being collectively ignored is like when Stewie Griffin found out Quahog was banning Twinkies. Chaos did ensue.
Check it out.
Wait, women don't want to date men anymore? But who will laugh at my fart jokes? But not all men are complaining. Some are actually agreeing. Yes, folks, the bar is so low, it's practically subterranean. One male TikToker commented, you don't need us. Most of us can't even name 4 chambers of the heart, and 2 of them are named after us. Critiques of the movement claim it's a reactionary response to Trump's re-election. And there they do have a point. And perceived attacks on women's rights, supporters argue that it's about autonomy and rejecting outdated societal norms. But both sides are duking it out on TikTok, turning the app into a bizarre mix of feminist, philosophy, and WWE smackdowns. Imagine Trump holding a rally.
Right.
They say, women don't want men anymore. Sad, but I invented women. Tremendous women. I've dated all of the best ones.
4B on TikTok.
While the 4B movement raises legitimate points, the debate often gets derailed. Critics accuse it of being extreme, while supporters argue that it's about reclaiming power in society that undervalues women. And there is the crowd that just wants to know, but what about hookup culture? If women stop dating, where am I supposed to find someone to ghost after one date? So, is the 4B movement here to stay? Well. Movements like the 4B tend to evolve. So the 4B movement is a bold feminist revolution, or just another TikTok trend destined to fade into algorithmic abyss. Time will only tell. But then remember, you see a TikTok about 4B, you don't have to leave a comment, just go touch some grass and maybe learn about the 4 chambers of hearts. And so with that being said, we're gonna look at a bunch of TikToks of women getting extremely mad and protesting against
the 4B movement.
So without further ado,
You guys feel spicy? Because I do.
No matter how loud, how kind, respectful, how cute, men will still fucking hate you.
Women are talking about bringing that 4B movement right here to the United States.
Talking about the fucking Operation 4B.
Refuse to date men, get married, have sex with them, or children.
All I have to say is good luck getting laid. Me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement.
No more kitty cat for moderate men.
But being all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be. Clearly, they don't give a shit about us.
No attention to men. Delete block. Do not respond to them.
Government cares that they're not having kids because children are the future labor
how long did
force.
that
I'm gonna
last?
start barking and getting fucking crazy.
Think I'm crazy?
Barking?
All the women before me who are crazy.
Barking is wicked.
Not crazy. We have to do this together.
The women who are doing the 4B movement help other women who are doing the 4B movement. Alright, man, I'm gonna be responding to you. I'm going to be promoting the 4B movement.
Do not acknowledge them. Do not look at them. Do not laugh at their jokes.
Why exactly are you going to
Do
keep
not
becoming
look at them, don't laugh at
subservient
the jokes,
to a
this bitch
nation
crazy?
that doesn't
Wake women up.
So that right there is the I think that's just the emotional I think that they're trying to be like serious, but they're not actually serious. Obviously they think that, but that ultimately is not gonna last. Like how long do you think a woman can go without laughing at a man's joke? So obviously they're just trying to like rile up. It was, I think what it is it was just at the emotional state of the election. A lot of women were seeing Kamala Harris as their saint. That was their representation as someone who should be in office based on being a woman. I think that a lot of women wanted her to be in office just because they're women, and there hasn't been a woman in office. And hey, look, I can't hold you to that. But once you establish DEI as your norm to somebody in such a very powerful position, you have to realize I don't think people fully understand being the president is one of the most powerful positions of all time. You will go down in history as one of the most powerful people to ever run the earth, because the United States is an underlevered hierarchy manufacturing machine. I wouldn't say a manufacturing machine, but I would say a monetization machine, honestly, because we
Lend out so much fucking shit to other countries.
I think China's more of a manufacturing machine. It's such a big machine in terms of monetization that holding that position requires somebody of such high stature who knows how to deal in those really crazy nuanced positions of monetization, or establishing social economics, establishing migration, war, everything in all is somebody in that position has to be extremely smart, high IQ. You have to be high IQ, understand all principles, understand that things are a lot more complex and not really like black and white as they seem. And I think that the social dichotomy of some women may just think that it's just like, oh, if we get somebody in there who represents us, then that's enough to create a strong economy and create representation that will help further a woman's status or help. But ultimately, it's one of those things where it's impossible to get to a actual answer, or to get to something that actually has any meaning just based on the fact that somebody's a woman, right? Like so obviously a woman can do just as good as a man. I think that your only reasoning of it being a woman is not enough to qualify that person to be in such a powerful position. I think that's a fair statement, and if you don't think so, GG's. So this is crazy though. Like, really think about it. Like, people are literally going to lengths of shaving their hair because they feel ostracized.
I'm just not sure what else to do at this point. I'm just not sure what to do. So the best thing that I can think of is I'm gonna have to shave my head.
Oh my
and start wearing
gosh.
makeup.
No, don't
and
do it,
divorce
Karen.
my husband.
Karen, don't do it. No.
And that's what I'm gonna have to do. I don't know what else to do.
Karen, you
So,
don't have to shave
come
your head, bro.
My head with me.
Karen, no. No, Karen, no. No, not the luscious.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, okay.
I am absolutely not going to shave my head.
Okay, that's good.
Because President Trump is the president-elect. Are you? What? That's your hair. and you're just gonna shave it, and you're divorcing your husband.
Dude, I don't think people understand. Sexual discipline is one of the hardest things to ever establish, but it's also one of the most beneficial things to establish. Not only will you have so much energy, you'll be able to see the world in such a clear view. You'll be back to your higher self in your primitive state, and you'll also be able to manifest things a lot more clearer. You'll have a more clear vision. It's also one of the things where it's like, you will ultimately be the best version of yourself possible. You don't have to worry about a man, a woman, etc. You'll ultimately be back to your best self.
Now that
W.
AB is
Karen,
kinda
W.
like,
Karen.
you know, now you want to watch what you do instead of just carefree and having to deal with consequences.
Right.
Make it make sense.
Ultimately, the results of the election did show that, and I think what it was is that the problem that the Democratic Party did not establish was they did not connect with you. And I even championed, like, even though I'm not for that side ultimately, I still I'm still like, deep down, I'm a Democrat. I think that for the people and by the people is ultimately the right choice. I think that though that is the ultimate right choice, that doesn't mean that the party that represents that is going to ultimately do that for the people in the long run. Every single time, it feels like, from what I've seen, because I just was able to, vote and stuff. From what I've seen, it seems like they always say, hey, we're gonna do this for the people, etc. And then we ultimately end up back in wars. We ultimately end up not establishing a stronger economy, and things just go down the drain. I think what it was is that people were not felt. They didn't feel the representation. And you don't need to, I don't need, and this is why I say, like, you go from physics to politics, and it's a totally different world. Like, a lot of things in terms of problems are black and white, but a lot of things in the black and white are not black and white, if that makes sense. It's a lot more nuance, but ultimately the decision making is black and white. It's very hard to kind of get what I'm getting at, but basically, like, in terms of like gender, right? It's black and white, but in terms of inside of the gender conversation, there's a lot more nuance. In terms of migration, it's black and white, but in terms of in migration, there's a lot of more nuance in how you could establish it. You know what I mean? But with like physics, all of it's fucking nuance. Like, there's not like, it's not always like this. It's always like, oh wait, but hypothetically this. And there's a theory about this that also could attribute to this theory, and this theory is this. And that's ultimately why we have the theory of everything. We're still trying to put that piece together, because that will completely objectify things, where it's like, here's the principle of this and this. Here's why this works because of this. And ultimately the theory of everything is going to put this in perspective, like, this is why this works because this works. Like, it's always a lot more nuance, right? And it's always the easy ride out of trying to just, hey, I believe this, and so I'm also going to believe this, and this is the side I believe, just because it's easier, and I don't want to have to put in the work of just coming to an ultimate conclusion of rational thinking and critical thinking. And that's a lot of people's thought process. And so the Democratic Party, what they did is they did not speak to people. They didn't speak to the whole population. They were talking about Trump as like this evil, conniving person. Now what you can do is show me why they're bad, tell me why they're bad, and not just name call, because that's like a kid. That's what a kid does. A kid just name calls. He's like, you're a poopy face. That's ultimately the Democratic strategy, was to just call them names and hopefully that works. Degeneracy is promoted a lot in our culture. And so I think that Hasan is a liberal role model, where he will garner and pander to the liberal side, even though I think that some of the things that Hasan champions are not things that he truly believes, but he knows that he can essentially take advantage of stupid people, because he knows that they only care about him because he's a good looking person. Hasan objectively is a good looking person, and whether you want to say, I think like the tendencies is like a strong, long hair, good hair, right, beard, etc., muscular person. Those are the principles of why somebody can be objectively good looking. And I think that a lot of people use that as a levy of like, oh, this is a good looking person, so what they may do has to be a good thing because maybe they live in a good way, or they have a good life, or etc. And so they think that these person's ideologies are going to be good, but that does not mean that if somebody looks good, that ultimately will reside in them being a good person, or why they are a good person, or etc., or what they champion is good. And so I've seen Hasan say things objectively are completely false, and that's why I don't like Hasan, because I know that it's a pander to his Democratic side, or to the side of the people that he wants to levy, because he knows that his fan base really ultimately just kind of blindly listen to him because he's a good looking person, right? And so I think that's why I thought that Hassan would have been a good person for the Democratic Party to go on, because they don't care what Hassan says, they'll just agree with him because they like how he looks. It just is what it is. So, you know, my Hassan theory, it doesn't just reside in just Hassan itself, but I think that if you establish an influence of a role model who is good looking enough, they can manipulate people. Like, I'm not even trolling. Somebody who's good looking can manipulate people. I don't know what the cognitive neurogenetics in people's brain it is, but if you have somebody who's good looking enough, people will blindly go with their side because they look good. It is what it is. Or if they're not good looking, they are talented enough. And so that ultimately is the defeat and why the Democratic side lost in the end. It's not that people are racist and homophobic and all this, because you think about the general population and the probability statistics of that being the case. How many people do you think are generally racist, generally horrible, generally homophobic, transphobic, and all of that? And then think about the probability of how many of those people are and how many people correlated that to that's not the case, except if a person just can't pay for bills, are struggling. And the side that the conservative side spoke to was being normal, being able to pay for basic fundamentals, being cared for, feeling like you have a voice. So the Democrat or the conservative side really spoke to people in that instance. If you're funding all these wars, how are you going to have money, extra money to give to your own people? That's the problem. War. Stop the war. And so the problem with the Democratic side is that they did not establish and speak to people in their everyday life. Most people, you have to think about the LGBT community. That is a very small percentage of the world. I know that online it seems like it's a large percent, but it's a very small percentage of the world. I mean, you're talking about marginally small. And so, like, you're basically saying people with like in their instance of like attacking Trump and stuff, a lot of people have the same ideology and principles of Donald Trump himself. And so you're basically name calling not only just Donald Trump, but you're calling him that, because if his beliefs are these people's beliefs, then you're basically calling those people him. And so if you say Hitler or Trump is a Hitler, or his ideologies and beliefs are a Hitler, you're basically calling all of the United States Hitler. And do you think that these people think that they are Hitler? No, they don't think they're Hitler, because these people don't think about things in hatred. They just think things about, hey, I want a strong economy. Why is everything so fucking expensive? Why are we still fighting a war? And the people's family members who know these people are going to war. You have to realize these people are Palestinian. These people are Ukrainian. These people have people in these places. And then we're like, hey, you're fighting our own people. Can you like not do that? It's all this overbearing, like, hey, we're the side saying we're doing good, yet we're not doing good. So you should vote for us because we're saying we're doing good, but everything we say is not good. How do you think people are going to react? It's not people hating. You don't have to think that people are like racist, transphobic, homophobic, and all these evil things. People are tired of being ostracized and having to be forced to believe things that are belligerent in their nature and objectively false. That's it. That's the 4B movement. That's the nuance of the 4B movement, and that's the ultimate unbiased truth to the 4B movement. Now, you can disagree with me all you want, go for it, but I think ultimately come back to this video and I'll probably be right. So with that being said, guys, that's gonna wrap us up for today. So to all my beautiful hugger kisses out there, hopefully you pick the person you wanna with, and you don't force it. But with that being said, my huggers and kisses, I'll see you when you're older. Peace.